I gotta record this again because my setup is trash. Basically, there's gonna be some rambles on some Isekai stuff and how the West is kind of ruining this kind of genre of anime. And I think the problem is it's a lot of wish fulfillment and it's basically a lot of the same stuff. It's either something that clearly should have been a hentai to begin with, or it's wish fulfillment, but it's very shameless about it. And it kind of ruins a good idea in a lot of ways. And the normal premise is somebody dies and they end up in this world and they're so super cool and they're way overpowered and they either have every superpower in the world or they have one superpower that makes them so OP it's ridiculous and blah blah blah. And they have like 52 girls in their harem and another one. But I think before I talk about that, I should give some examples on some animes that don't really have a big, massive story, but they're still good, self-contained stories. And I think one that I want to point out is, oh, it's probably on the screen right now because for some reason I can't remember the name of it. But it's a story where I think it's Restaurant to Another World, and the story is about this guy who owns this, Japanese cafe, this diner, whatever. And every 7 days, people from this fantasy world are able to travel to Japan, in our world, and eat food from him. So the basic idea is every 7 days, somewhere in the world, this door will appear. People can enter it and go eat food. And you get to see these different fantasy creatures like lizard men and dwarves and mages and all these other, dragons and all these other creatures and humans. And they go there to eat food. And what's interesting is that you get to learn more about the people that go there. You get to see where where each of these people come from and what their backstory is. And what's interesting about the doors is that they could appear anywhere. It could appear in the desert, it could appear on an island, it could appear on a mountain. Anywhere. And sometimes the story is is about, well, for most of the stories, you get to learn how people found the door in the first place. As a little spoiler, there's this character who's looking for, believe it was their grandfather, believe it was their grandfather's secret treasure. So after searching for it, they finally found it, and it's revealed that in this area there's a door, and they're like, "Well, what the hell is this?" They go in the door, and they realize, "Oh man, this must be some sort of restaurant." They eat the food, and they realize that this was their grandfather's greatest treasure, their greatest secret, because he was an adventurer and treasure hunter and stuff like that. And he was retired, and he spent, the rest of his life in this town. This was his little secret. And, she gets to learn more about the grandfather and also learn more about the people that knew him, as he spent many years in this place. And what's interesting about the show is you see people interacting from different countries, different social statuses, because it is a medieval world. So of course there's like class systems. You see nobles, sharing space with slaves, and dragons and lizard men and all these other things. And you even see nobility talking with regular people. And I really like that there's this human element to the story, that food is a great equalizer of society, and that good food can bring people together regardless of social status or race or things like that. It's a nice little contained story. And it's nothing grand, it's nothing world ending, but it's a nice little self contained story about bringing people together and good food bringing happiness and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. Very simple story. But in Isekai, at least the ones that come out a lot, they're kind of very low effort. They might even rarely have a very good idea or a very good setup, but a good premise or good setup. You kind of need a good execution, otherwise it falls flat. Now I know some people. I I know some people might not like. Some people might not like reincarnated as a slime, but it's a nice little story. It's a nice story about a dude who's just chilling out, accidentally forms a, a new society and a new government. And it's a nice little story because not every anime has to deal with the end of the world or some mind-altering revelation or some sort of doomsday plot, or it doesn't need that. Anime can be whatever you want it to be. But we're getting a huge influx in the since the was it 2015, 2016 of these types of shows where I'm the greatest that ever lived and I'm never gonna think about the other world again or something or whatever, blah blah blah. And it's really, you can tell that if you were 13 years old, this would be the anime for you. You're like, yeah, and then he has this cool like sword, and then he's got this superpower that like cancels other people's powers out, and then he could like take it, so he cancels their power, and then he like takes it for like himself, and he puts it in the sword, and then he like fucks him up. It's so cool. Oh my god, and it sounds very childish, you know, but but the thing, but the thing I want to say is that there's this other story where it it's not an isekai, but it would be the perfect plot for one, right? But the basic setup, and again, I forget, Mayo, I'll probably put a picture up right now if I can. And the basic premise is this: the hero fights for the humans, and he's going to kill the Demon King to stop this war. The Demon King is revealed to be this beautiful young woman. And he's like, what the hell? The Demon King says it's just a title, it really doesn't, that, but yeah, they are the Demon King, right? And what happens is that in the manga, um, apparently, the Demon King is from a different race of demons, like demons of knowledge, where they have access to knowledge that's beyond humans, like knowledge from other worlds, from like, or anything really. It could be literature, it could be science, it could be farming, it could be new technologies. They just have their they just have this massive, insanely huge library that gives them access to all this knowledge. Basically, I don't know how else to say it. They're basically demon librarians that just read every book in the universe or multiverse, whatever. And the basic thing is that the demon lord, demon king, whatever, reveals to him that yeah, you could kill me and fight the demons, but it won't really fix anything. Because even if you do kill me, the humans will just destroy each other. And he's like, well, that's not true. And she basically convinces him by explaining that I felt the demons, like, because how does she say it? Because I'm going off memory. She basically says that certain countries fund the other countries in their fight of the demons. And once the demons are gone, you humans will be free to fight amongst yourselves once again. We're basically the scapegoats that allow you to be somewhat unified, but once we're out of the picture, you guys would just go back to fighting each other and backstabbing and doing whatever you were doing. And she even agrees that She can't step down and surrender because even though she's the Demon King or Demon Lord, that the demons will just keep it going. And if the hero stops, the humans will just keep it going. So they're in a position where they both can't just say, I surrender, or hey guys, what if we did this? They can't just do that. So they make up a deal, and she goes into human society disguised as a human noble. That's her story. And because she's educated, because she's a knowledge demon essentially, she's able to pass like, oh yeah, nobles are very smart because they have access to higher education and stuff like that. And she introduces new technologies, like basically like water treatment and farming, and explains how rotating crops affect this, so that way people don't starve, and it can also make an area richer. And she basically solves a problem just by fixing how people farm, or well, not fixing, but changing them and teaching them new methods. There was this plot where something as simple as potatoes turned the tide of something, or or even like having knowledge of economics of the world changed the outcome of this huge decision that would have affected millions of people. And that's really what the show's about. It's not about the hero and demon king throwing freaking magic lasers at each other while while her bits flop about. It's about showing that, hey, like the hero gains this new perspective. Like, yeah, I wasn't aware of these issues in my own society before, either because I didn't see it, or I wasn't around to see it, or because I never gave it a second thought. And there's this area that's both humans and demons living in it, but the demons are slaves, and they're treated like shit. So the hero and the demon king, they work together, and they basically, well, spoiler, they basically free um, this town from its corrupt leaders. And in a way, they actually create this new foundation for coexistence. This town or this city where demons and humans can properly coexist as the basis of what the future might look like. These are all good ideas. It's not, ooh, I'm better than you, and oh, I have this skill called Skill Taker, and I'm able to take your rapid heal. No, it's none of that. It's just using knowledge to change the world and kind of flipping people's ideas on each other on their head. Not that there's not a fight once in a while, but that's not what the show's about, and I like that. It's more nuanced, you know? And and then you have the thing with isekais that are really weird is it's like they put no thought into their own world, but I understand why, because they're trying to shoot for a certain demographic, and sometimes the book is a little bit better than the actual anime, and I'll admit that. But when you have, I mean, I could point out, I guess one that I could use as what I think would be good was that time I got reincarnated as a slime. It's a nice little story, right? And I mean, yeah, there's some fights and stuff, but it's not really. It's really like an easygoing anime, and not every anime has to be dark and gritty and be the fate of the world all the freaking time. Sometimes an anime, like the ones I listed before, where it's where it's that restaurant to another world, or the demon king and the hero working together to kind of save both demons and people. Those are stories that are more about connecting people, you know? No one's overpowering each other. There's no dumb fights for no reason. That's all it is. And it's just designed to be a happy little tale that makes you think about things. A nice little easygoing stuff. Which is fine. There's a place for that. And with the time I got reincarnated as a slime, that's something similar. But the thing with the isekais that they do now, or what they were doing heavily, was a guy dies, and now he's like the super Chad, and it's something that a 14-year-old boy would think of, or like a 12-year-old would think of. And then he's got this magic armor, and it it seems very juvenile, and it and sometimes it ruins good potential for a story too. I would give some more examples, but this is going on long enough. But another one that I would think of is kind of like SAO. That's an older one. I'm not gonna. That's a way older one. But the basic thing about SAO is the idea seemed to be that people's connections go beyond, or people's connections to other people go beyond the physical. That meeting somebody online in this, VR technology can be just as meaningful as meeting them in the real world. That you can still make friends, you can still make connections, and sometimes these could be outlets to express yourself, or outlets to be, to, to make friends, or stay connected and stuff like that. And these ideas are good, you know? I do like the idea, I mean, I do like the idea of how Kirito, that little guy, how he wants to use this technology not just for games but for other applications as well. That's a logical conclusion, right? Well, what do you want to do, Kirito? Now that you're not trapped in a death game, well, I want to use this technology for good by applying it in other fields. Hey, I like that. That's really smart. That's really cool. That's a good uh, leap for him to do because he actually does like this stuff. Okay, so he wants to be like an engineer, computer scientist. But then it's kind of bogged down with all this freaking bullshit. And then Asuna keeps getting molested every 10 seconds because that's the only way to bring up drama. And the writing, if you think about the writing for longer than 10 seconds, it falls apart. But everyone's done an SAO video. But that's my problem when it comes to a lot of anime these days that come out, whether it's on Crunchyroll or something else, where they come out and it's either an overpowered guy gets to live his 12-year-old fantasy, which they kind of release an anime that's just like this, where he forms this dark order, where his persona is this dark edge lord. But apparently that's on purpose. That's part of the joke. It's like a meta sort of joke where he's living his childhood delusion of this cool badass. And so yeah, so that kind of works in that context because they're not really playing it all that straight. So that's so because of that slight comedic element, I hear it elevates the show and kind of makes it work. Or or they do this thing that I don't like, and here's the last thing. I kind of drifted off because I need a co-host to kind of keep me in line. But another thing that I don't like is when they create a romance. Um, I think the one that really annoyed me was My Dress Up Darling. My Dress Up Darling, spoiler alert, is about this guy who has a weird hobby. He likes to make dolls, you know, and this girl likes to cosplay. She 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 basically sucks at making costumes, and but he's able to make the costumes for her, and they become friends, and it's clear they have some sort of attraction to each other, but basically they get to share in each other's hobbies. They get to learn tips from each other, where he teaches her about making clothes and he makes all these beautiful outfits for her hobby, and she shows interest in him and blah blah blah, and they both kind of learn from each other and kind of grown together with her outspokenness and big personality and his more reserved self. They kind of mang back and forth where he admires her for her outgoing behavior and just her personality and wants to be more like her. She admires his hard work and dedication and stuff like that. And just a constant back and forth. But then they introduce these other characters in the anime, and for no reason. And they kind of focus on them for a while because of course you gotta have the lolly college or high school student, and then you have to have the big whatever. But I was really looking forward to actually seeing maybe they're gonna do it this time. Maybe they're gonna make an anime where the guy says, "Nope, this is the girl. This is the girl that I'm gonna be with. This is my romantic love interest. This is gonna be, yeah, this one right here." But every anime, I hate this. They always do that trope. They gotta bring 10 other girls in, or 3 other girls, or even just, I think 3 is the minimum. They gotta bring a minimum of 3 girls, but then they've been getting crazy lately, and they gotta have like 12 or 10 or some freaking crazy number. And it's really dumb, because I hate that will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, because we all know why they do that. They do that so that way you can pick your own waifu and kind of put, kind of like put yourself in his body, like yeah, and kind of like wish fulfillment. But then the story suffers for that, and there was even an anime where this guy is drinking soda, like he drinks soda, but then the soda cans turn into girls, and they have powers based on their flavors. It's really silly. That's a real anime. But I just mentioned that as an example that anime could be literally about anything. You could have a medieval society that uses magic robots. That was an anime. You could have magical girls, but they're soda. That was an anime. You could have a shonen battle anime about cooking, like Hell's Kitchen type shit, which they did. And people really give Food Wars a lot of crap, but I've never seen it. Like, I've never seen that before. Like a food shonen, making it all dramatic and shit. I thought it was really cool. And you also get to see these characters grow and develop their skills and develop as people, especially um, especially you see a lot of them grow in confidence. You see a lot of them figure out why they want to cook and why they want to be a great chef and stuff like that. So, you know, I know people will point out the obvious stuff, like which "Oh, the girls," but it's not really about the girls for me. I do like seeing these other characters thrive. You even have the main character, the spoiler alert, when they're for like their practical tests, you could say, each student is sent to an existing restaurant to help them out where they'll be marked in secret. So, oh my god, I'm blanking on the names. I'm trying to wrap this up. So the main character goes to this diner, and the girl who's kind of like the assistant but also the best friend of the main girl, Yuki, the bitch that got the golden tongue, basically. Um, yeah, so her assistant starts talking shit to the main character, saying, "Hey, just because you worked in some rinky-dink diner, that don't mean shit. I've studied with the best and blah blah blah." But then the actual lunch rush comes in, and she don't know what the hell she's doing. She's like, "Oh wait, oh crap, this, uh." But then in the back, you hear him, "Okay, this, and this, and we're gonna do this," and he's just taking charge. And then orders. He's running that restaurant practically by himself. Mr. Sean, hey, take this to table two, because he has that practical real world experience that she doesn't have. It's a little thing. It sounds, making it makes it sound very cool, seeing that whole process. So there is some stuff to like. So anime could be anything, and anyone can take what they want from it, and and like what they like. I just wish that when it came to certain genres, like isekai or romance or something, that they actually try their best and stick the landing. Like My Dress Up Darling was cool. It's a nice little romance story, but they forgot the romance. And I hear in the manga, because I'm not up to date, in the manga, they're still they're still playing that will they won't they, will they won't they, will they won't they. And I don't like that. That's really annoying. And yeah, so basic child wish fulfillment where I'm the super cool, mega awesome guy. Um, Not every anime has to be a big, grand, important, world-ending event. It could be a nice, smaller story that still has something to say. Uh, when people make these sort of mangas and they get adapted, they might have a good idea, but it's ruined by their execution because they want to focus on certain elements. And I guess that's kind of what it is, because I do like this stuff, but I guess it's kind of like if someone made a movie in America, I'm just gonna I'm gonna make a random title. If someone did a Superman movie or a Green Lantern movie, which they did, that uh, they already did make a Green Lantern movie, but we don't talk about that. So if somebody made a Green Lantern movie, and let's say I think my script is way better, I wouldn't be allowed to do that over here because they would say I'm plagiarizing or I'm doing this or that, or or the elements are too similar, so now I have to rewrite my whole script because that's copyright. That's what our laws do. I could say it's a reboot or reimagining, but I might still need to change my vision because someone else beat me to the punch. You know what I mean? That is that doesn't mean I can't make another Green Lantern movie, but I always believe that if someone has a cool idea and they mess up their execution, I think it's a lot more understandable if it's because they legitimately thought they were doing a good job and they just missed their mark due to inexperience or maybe an error in judgment or something. But you can tell they'll get better. And when their next movie comes along or their next show, their next this, you see, wow, man, Joe, that that Joe Joseph guy, that writer or director, Joe Joseph, man, his last movie was okay, but this one's really good, and you get to see him grow. When it comes to the animes they choose to adapt and bring to the West, it's just wish fulfillment. A lot of it's childish, and it kind of gives anime a bad rap because people who are anime fans and people that aren't, they'll look at this stuff and they'll say, "Oh, you like anime? Oh, you like lollicoms and oh yeah, and big titty dragons, whatever." But it it's because when they look up, "Hey, I don't know what anime is. Let me look up what's put out recently and let me try to give anime a chance." Unless their friend gives them some really good recommendations, they're just gonna look at what's out right now and they're gonna say, "Oh, people are watching this right now," and they'll see big titty lolly dragon isekai, and I'll be like, "Oh, this is awful. I don't like this. You guys are weird." So it's kind of like a double-edged, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? You could see how an outsider might think that's weird and kind of, paint that picture. But anyway, let me get going. Yeah, I'm just rambling on about nothing. Anyway.